Good morning, Pirate teachers. We're so excited to have you here today and getting ready to start the year. I'm Dean Gillette. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Human Services. We have a great program planned for you, and we know you're going to get registered this afternoon, so it's going to be a fun day. We hope you have had a great day so far. So my part in this right now is very short, to introduce a couple people to you and to give you some directions. So because we don't have ongoing chat, as you hear the faculty and our students talk, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box and we will get them answered at the end. Dr. Martinelli, who's also on, our Associate Dean, who you may have met at Open House, he will be answering the questions and also at the end throwing them out to faculty and students so you can get more involved answers. But know that if you put your questions in the chat, we will get back to you and answer your questions, even if you don't hear all your questions today. Secondly, I was so excited to see some of you in your t-shirts on Facebook and Twitter. If you have not taken a picture of yourself in your College of Education and Human Services t-shirt, please do so today and send it to educate@shu.edu and we'll get you up with all of the other students who are already up on Facebook and Twitter. So today we have a great panel that I'm going to tell you briefly about, then they're going to introduce themselves. So we have Dr. Grace May, who is going to talk to you about the options in the elementary special education program. We have Dr. Edmund Ajapong, who's going to talk to you about the secondary ed program. We have Ms. Karen Grove, who's going to talk to you about your placement sites as you go through the program. She is a very important person because she's going to get you where you want to go for your school experiences. We have Dr. Martinelli, the Associate Dean, who's going to be moderating your chat questions, which I already mentioned. And then we have 3 current or just graduated students who are going to tell you about life in the College of Education and Human Services. Shannon OBrien, Claudia Valverde, and Jalen Henderson Pena. So we know that you are ready for all of the great things we have to offer you and to get ready to be teachers. So please expect to be hearing from us in the chat box, but at the end will be all of our emails if you have more questions, and expect to hear from faculty for some get-togethers over this summer. So I'm going to turn it now over to Dr. May and get the program started. And so we will hear from her now.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Gillette, and welcome everybody. We're really excited to be with you today. Our greatest wish would be that we could all be together in person, but if not, this is a good start. So my goal today is to just tell you very quickly a few things about the elementary special education programs. And when I say programs, that's because there are a couple of different options within elementary special education. And if we could actually go to the next slide. Great, thanks so much, Brooke, we appreciate it. So there are 3 major options in this program, and so anyone who has applied for and is a part of the elementary and special ed program, that's our traditional track, and that's for people who are really invested and interested in being classroom teachers, and we love that. For those who are in the second option, that's our elementary special education speech track. And that's for people who understand the value and the importance of education in preparing them to then go on to be speech language pathologists. And the third option is for people who are in elementary and special education with an interest in applied behavior analysis. Again, these folks understand the importance of having a teaching background and then the use of adding on to that applied behavior analysis to serve a wide range of students with some behavioral challenges. Every option in our program, it doesn't matter which of these tracks you're in, you will all have the exact same coursework in your freshman year. Everyone will be in the same classes, and you wouldn't begin to see some differences between these programs until sophomore year when people begin to take some of those more advanced courses for the speech program or then eventually in the ABA program. One of the things I'd like to really emphasize about the elementary special ed program is that from the very beginning, when we created this way back in 2004, before any other university in the state of New Jersey, we believed in the fact that every single classroom includes students with a wide range of learning talents and needs, and that the best prepared teachers are those who have backgrounds to serve as many of those learners as possible. And so even though we talk about a title of elementary and special education, we're also thinking about many other things connected to serving today's classrooms. We're thinking about culturally relevant pedagogies. We're thinking about serving students who are English language learners. We are really trying to make sure that you are well prepared to serve the broad range of students in your classrooms. So if we can go to the next slide, I wanted to mention freshman year. So today you're going to register for your classes with your advisors. And if you're in elementary special education, you will sign up for 2 courses. The first is EDST 1001, and that's the Intro to Education class. And I'm actually teaching one of those sections, and so is Dr. Mary Mueller. And when you register for that class, you'll get an email or some kind of document from your mentor that tells you about a book we're going to ask you to read this summer called Troublemakers. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And you'll also register for a class called Diverse Learners 1. So you'll have an introduction to elementary and an introduction to special education. So you'll receive dual advisement during this year between the mentors in freshman studies, as well as you'll get advisement in whole class conversations in your courses. So you'll be well taken care of, and we'll all be available to support you during this time. We don't have specific field experiences in freshman year, but we do look to have opportunities to take you to schools to visit students. And Ms. Grove can talk to you about the more specific clinical experiences when we get to her presentation. And there's just one last thing to mention, and that's at our next slide. And that is that if you are a pre-education major, meaning that you're tracking education, first, we're really excited to have you with us, and I want you to know that you are taking the exact same elementary special education courses as everyone else in the program. And that if you have particular questions about the entrance criteria to fully move into education, particularly about maybe the core academic skills exam, I'm happy to answer those questions, and you can reach out to me at the email below. And then Dr. Ajappan is the person who will help those in secondary education who are tracking the major. So again, we really look forward to hearing from you, and I will be available throughout the day. So if you find when you're registering, if you have questions, you can email me, and the freshman mentors and the lead of freshman studies have my cell phone number, so they can contact me at any point during the day. Thank you. And now I'm introducing Dr. Ajappan from the secondary education program.
Thanks, Dr. May. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our orientation. My name is Dr. Evan Ajappan, and I am the program director for secondary education program. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our program to give you some insight of what your first year will encompass. So we go to the next slide, please. So, and similar to special elementary ed, secondary ed, we have 2 tracks. We have secondary education and we have secondary education with special education. And in either track or option, all students will have a kind of a double major in education as long as another major in the College of Arts and Science. So we have mathematics, history, English, music, 3 of the sciences, bio, physics, chemistry, modern language, art. And then we have another track here, eArt, that Dr. May spoke about in her last slide. And those are for students who are entering the program who are kind of tracking education. And we work closely with those students to make sure you meet all the requirements to fully enroll into the program. But the beauty here is that, you know, you will be focusing on the field of study and where in the area that you look to teach. So whether you're looking to teach middle school or high school as a secondary education educator, you will have an in-depth study in that major, as long as an additional major in education. Next slide, please. So a couple of things around our secondary program. This year, we finally finished and completed some curriculum revisions. And we're working very closely, the 3 faculty in the program, around revising our curriculum to ensure that all of our students who leave Seton Hall are well prepared to teach students anywhere, right, regardless of what that setting is. So I kind of want to highlight some of the things that we focus and want to emphasize. We updated our mission, and these are two things I want to highlight from our mission statement. So the first thing is that the secondary program, we seek to prepare educators who practice culturally relevant teaching and who are committed to social justice. Very important, especially in our current times, and we're seeing a lot of the social unrest, and we want to make sure that our teachers are prepared to have conversations with their students and prepared to talk about social justice issues and are teaching in a relevant way that engages all students. And a second major focus that we changed in our mission statement this year is that we seek to prepare educators to serve the students of all backgrounds with a particular focus on urban communities through community and school partnerships. And what that means is that we sought out a partnership. We have a partnership with Patterson School District, which is an urban school district in northern New Jersey. And in our first year, we take students to Patterson School District to just observe schools and teachers and students. And we're trying to figure out what that might look like this year, trying to understand if students will be virtual or on campus this year at Patterson. So next slide, please. So a glimpse of your first year as a student. You'll take, all of our secondary students take the same courses in the first year courses together. So all students will take EDST 1501, Education, the Past and Present, with Dr. Katz. And if you are secondary education and special education, you will also be taking CPSY 1001, Diverse Learners Part 1. In the spring, we take EDST 3510, Culture, Community, and Schools. And if you are also a secondary and special ed major, you'll take CPSY 1002. In both EDST 1501 and EDST 3510, Culture, Community, and Schools, there's kind of a field component there. It's not an actual, we go to the field together and we share that field experience as a class. So it's part of the curriculum. So it's not like you're going on your own. Our goal here is to take students out and to explore schools and understand what teaching and learning is as a collective, as a class, with an instructor available there to answer questions and to think critically with you. And then so that when you do go for your field experience, when you're out on your own in your sophomore year, second semester sophomore year, then you're more equipped and able to kind of navigate that space and continue that learning on your own. So our kind of our first initial field experiences are our school visits to Patterson schools in the Patterson School District. So I would like to introduce Ms. Karen Grove, who is our director of our Office in Clinical Experiences and Applied Research here in our department.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ajapong. I first want to welcome all of you and say congratulations as a parent of a high school senior, whether you have had a virtual graduation or a drive-through graduation or are awaiting an in-person graduation after July 5th. Congratulations, you made it, and we are so excited to welcome you officially to us in the fall. As both Dr. Ajapong and Dr. May said, your first year, your first placements in freshman year really go with as a cohort with your classes. My office doesn't place those that work. I work with the professors as far as the schools are concerned, but you do that as a class. My role and your interaction with my office really picks up around the spring of freshman year, where you will be applying for placement in your spring freshman year courses. So everybody, whether it's someone tracking education, education special ed, secondary special ed, elementary ABA track, DVSL, all have 3 placements over the course of sophomore and junior year that we call clinical experiences. Which semesters you have those depend on which program you're in. But 3 out of those 4 semesters. For elementary, your first placement will be in a kindergarten, 2nd grade classroom, and then a 3rd through 5th grade classroom for your second placement. And your third placement will be a specific special education setting. And that can vary anywhere from an inclusion class to a resource room to a school for multiply disabled, autism classroom, you name it. We tend to let students kind of give me an idea of the type of setting they'd like for that placement because some students have an idea of what population and who they'd like to work with in the future. So we'd like to expose you to that if possible. For secondary students, you will be placed in both middle school and high school. Obviously, it's 3 placements, so we kind of go back and forth, and students will have different experiences. But all of the placements are in various demographic locations: urban, suburban, socioeconomic, students with different talent levels and needs, so you get a very broad base. Dean Gillette often says that when she stamps that you're eligible for certification, it's so that you're eligible to teach anywhere at any time. So that is the benefit of all of the varied experiences that we offer. And then clinical practice, which is what the state now calls student teaching, is a 2-semester experience, and that is typically your senior year. Most students track from a fall to spring situation. So their fall semester is clinical practice 1, and that's typically 2 days a week, or 175 hours. And then the spring semester is more traditional full-time student teaching. Again, most students follow that fall spring semester. If you happen to be an athlete and you're a spring sport, or you end up either ahead of schedule, some of our students finish up early, some take an extra semester, depending on whatever may come up in their own situation. You can do a spring to fall. So just to ease the concerns of any athletes out there, those tend to mostly be our students that do a different track. So I also wanted to kind of share, I think it's always great to be able to see yourself where you may be someday. So if you were to, Burke, the next slide, if you could please, you'll see some of our students in all different settings. Actually, the upper left, that's one of our students with us today, Claudia, with her science department at West Orange High School, celebrating it. I'm going to go with Christmas. Looks like some ugly sweater contests going on there. And then we also have some students at the social studies department at Morristown High School. And then some of the middle pictures you'll see in the upper right, that's one of our students who obviously at the beginning of her placement this year was able to teach face-to-face. And then when they went virtual, there she is teaching just like, well, not just like, but still providing lessons and being support and assisting her cooperating teacher in the classroom. And then the one that's looking a little blurry, it looked better when I put it up there, our 2 students, our cooperating teacher and one of our student teachers who were teaching fractions. So they joined their virtual classroom as pizza guys to kind of get a little bit of a fun experience for their students virtually. So this is kind of you years from now. And then I also wanted to share with you some insight from our cooperating teachers. I work very hard with a lot of our districts in the state of New Jersey that we place with regularly to have phenomenal partnerships. Teachers that year after year in different districts will ask for our students to come back. And you can see that they love working with you guys, that you're an invaluable asset to both them and their students. And that it's a benefit and a win-win for both you and for them. So that gives you a real good glimpse into where what your experiences will be like. And our hope, of course, is to have everybody back in the classroom face-to-face, as in their placements face-to-face. But if not, we are certainly working with our partners to achieve what can be achieved this fall. So just like everybody else, if you have questions about placements, there's the chat, and then my contact information is available on the last slide. And now what I think you all really want to hear is from our students. So it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jalen Henderson Pena, who is a rising senior. Jalen is an elementary education, special education, liberal arts major with a minor in Spanish. And he actually is going to focus a little bit on the experiences that he's had. So Jalen, take it away.
Thank you, Ms. Grove. Hi, everyone. As Ms. Grove introduced me, my name is Jalen Henderson Pena. I'm a rising senior studying elementary special education and liberal studies with a minor in Spanish. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences in the classroom with the professors on this call today. I'm fortunate enough to have been in class with all the professors that we have today. And I can definitely say that each of their classes has been very impactful on me. I've gotten to really be treated like a person, not just a number on their class roster. Every time that they give out an assignment or something like that, I really know that I can trust them in writing down anything that I really feel, or expressing or sharing anything that I really feel. Some stuff that, can sometimes seem vulnerable, especially for me. I'm not someone who likes to open up a lot, but when it comes to this field, I know that it's very important to reflect, because with reflection, I have to really start to learn to empathize, especially with the students that I'm going to be working with in the classroom. So when I start to empathize a little bit and share my stuff, I can then start taking steps forward to take action, especially for my students in the classroom, which is, at the end of the day, for me, what it's all about. So with like assignments and my experiences with my professors in the College of Ed, it can seem a little overwhelming at times, because you do have 2 majors. And in my case, I also have a minor. So the workload might seem a little overwhelming, but if this is something you really want to do, it won't be that bad. It's all the work that I do for the College of Ed. It feel good for me. It's all stuff that I like to do. It's all stuff that I like to learn about, stuff I want to keep researching, and just for the betterment of myself as a teacher, but for my students ultimately in the classroom. I want to make sure that once I officially leave Seton Hall and I have my own classroom, that my students are going to be able to have the best school experience possible. Which is a reason I feel like a lot of people get into teaching, especially if you're someone who you maybe didn't have amazing school experiences. You want to change that for those in the future. That's one of the reasons I got into this program. And just tying that into my field experiences a little bit, the professors here definitely practice what they preach. When they talk about best pedagogy and best teaching, they really want to instill that in the classroom that you're in with them, so that you can take that with your students. So I've had 3 field experiences, as Ms. Grove has said. I was in a kindergarten classroom in Cranford, middle school classroom in Orange, and a 3rd grade classroom in Maplewood. So I've had all levels, well, not all levels, but I've had different levels in the elementary room. So I can really I've grown to be flexible in the classroom, and I've gotten to know a little bit about the different areas in elementary. Definitely for me, I'm more for the upper elementary, the 5th and 6th grade. But all my experiences, I've taken so much away from my cooperating teachers, and even more so from my little students. You'd be surprised to figure out how much 5- and 6-year-olds can really teach you about yourself, not only as a teacher, but as an individual. I've been forced to question myself a whole lot, and question the styles of teaching that I've been taught, or the styles of teaching that I've researched a little bit, and change it a little bit. While good teaching is good teaching, it does change from placement to placement, to student. Every student's not going to learn the same. Every teacher is not going to be able to work with certain styles of teaching, and that's okay. You just have to learn to adapt. This field is definitely a lot about adapting, and I feel like I do that a lot now. I'm very comfortable in the classroom when it comes to changing or going outside of the traditional styles of teaching, because I want to make sure that, again, all of my students are having that amazing school experience, and not just coming to school to come to school, just because it's a requirement for them. So in the fall, hopefully, depending on what it looks like, I'll be going back to Orange to work with the 5th and 6th grade teachers that I worked with previously. I'm very excited to get a whole bunch of information. Last time I was only there for a semester, but going to be there for an entire school year. I'm especially excited to talk about all the stuff that's going on today. While it is pretty tiresome and stressful, this is a revolutionary time that we're living in right now, and students, especially 5th and 6th graders, are ready and need to have those conversations about what's going on, especially when it's people who look like them that are being affected. So I'm excited to talk about this stuff in the classroom. I hope you guys are all excited, or going to eventually develop that excitement for social justice and for this field. So now I'm going to pass it off to one of my good friends, a recent graduate of the College of Education. She graduated in the Secondary Education and Bio program, Miss Claudia Valverde.
Hello, everybody. It's very excited to be here as a recent alum. To give you some context on why I'm reaching out and talking to you today is I was in your shoes a very short while ago, and I've gained so much from the experiences I've had in the College of Ed, in my field placements, and just looking for a job and all that process. And to just reassure you, even though I know job hunting is probably one of the last things on your mind right now as incoming freshmen. The process, you'll probably be nervous about it when the time comes, but you really shouldn't be. I was nervous, but I really had the support of my professors, the dean, like everybody in the College of Ed was so supportive. And I had a job before I even graduated, which is a really exciting and awesome thing to say. So don't worry, it's all going to be okay. And so some advice I wanted to give as you enter the journey of becoming teachers is regardless of your content, we're all educators and we teach so much more than our content. And that was never more apparent to me than when I was student teaching and doing it through the e-learning platform. I had students who were going through so much emotionally, and it was really just taking the time to check in with them. Like the first few weeks, I think schools all over, districts all over, our priority was really checking in on students and making sure that they were okay, that they were emotionally all right, that they had access to the things they needed to be able to learn, which really was so enlightening. We talk a lot about that in the classroom, but seeing it all come out and playing out in schools, it was really very educational for me too. And so that's something that you should always think about. We're teaching more than just content. We're trying to teach the student. We want to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable in our classrooms, that, you know, things are going on in their life when they step out of our classroom, when they go home, and we have to be aware of that and also use that as strengths to their abilities and really utilize all that's around them to educate them. Another thing I want to touch upon is just that, you know, being a teacher means always being curious and flexible because you're always going to be in new situations. E-learning was an experience that none of us had really had before, but we all kind of went into it with open minds. Something I did constantly was get student feedback. What's working right now in our e-learning classroom, what's not, because students know best about what they need to succeed, and being open to listening to that is so crucial. And that's my advice to you all. I'm going to pass it on to Shannon OBrien, who's a rising senior in the 4+2 dual degree program. She is doing elementary education and the speech pathology program. And she's going to talk a little bit about how education connects to speech and just the benefits she's had in her field experiences.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. As mentioned, I'm Shannon OBrien. I'm going to be a senior this year. And what I really enjoy about the elementary education and the speech language pathology program is really the extreme overlaps between the two professions. There is a multitude of connections between the two professionals. I'll just name a few that I have seen firsthand by both seeing speech language pathologists and educators, really both sets of professions. They're filled with caring and passionate professionals. They really want to help the students make progress in their learning and speaking skills, and they really do want the best for all of the students they work with. Also, both professions do kind of have the standardization of creating lesson plans, so they will make goals and objectives for their students to achieve, and they also want to make it extremely fun for them. So really they do a lot of strategies to keep the students engaged through activities and their dialogue. Also, these two professionals will do a ton of collaboration with one another to help the students succeed. They will interact during IEP meetings and also classroom interventions. From my own experience through the clinical rotations I have been in, I really enjoy that I do get to see both professionals and how they overlap. So through my rotations, I've been in a 2nd grade class, a 3rd grade class, and then a combined 5th and 6th grade class. I have really enjoyed the opportunities to collaborate with general education and special education teachers. They have shown me a lot about classroom management, how to manage behaviors, different lesson plans and engaging activities to keep the students engaged. And I really valued those experiences just because I'll take them along with me. I'm extremely excited to get my teaching certification and then to move on to my master's. And I know that all this time in the classroom will help me develop as a professional, as a speech language pathologist. Also, being in the elementary schools, I have been able to shadow some speech language pathologists. Sometimes I'll pop into their classrooms during my lunch period or if my teacher had a prep period. And sometimes I would actually get to see the students who I had in the classroom be in their speech sessions and just see them overcome both academic and communication struggles, and seeing how proud and confident they are going forward is something really special to see. Also, being in these clinical rotations have helped me develop as a professional. I feel like all that time spent in the classroom, I have developed meaningful relationships with the students. And it also helped me develop my dialogue and how to interact with them in a professional manner, but also know that I am someone as a friendly presence for them to go to if any help is ever needed. And finally, during this pandemic, I really have realized how both educators and speech-language pathologists are essential workers. These two roles really helped keep a routine for the students. They did provide a sense of normalcy during this chaotic time for the students, and even though it was virtual, I've heard from family members and friends that really signing on to Zoom meetings and things like that, the students were really excited to log on, see some of their classmates, see their teacher, or go to speech sessions, just because that's what they were used to during the year. Also, in uncertain times like now, the emotional support these professionals could give the students really does help the students. And really, for these two professionals to adapt to a virtual setting in such a short period of time really shows their passion for the students and how much they do want them to succeed and keep that momentum going for them to grow going forward. I'm extremely excited to enter my senior year and start my student teaching, whether it may start off virtually, but I really do hope to move to that in-person setting to continue those meaningful relationships I've developed in the past with students. So I am going to throw it back to Dean Gillette to answer some Q&As that we have gotten throughout the chat. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shannon. Well, first of all, I want to thank Dr. May, Dr. Ajapong, Ms. Grove, and Shannon, Claudia, and Jalen for all the information they gave us. You're probably a little bit on overload, and I don't see too many questions, but I'm sure that with all that's sitting before you, you have some other things that you want to know about. Dr. Martinelli, who's going to moderate the questions and throw them back to the audience, is our person in the College of Ed who you will meet to help you with a number of things, but one of them is certification. So he's an expert on if you want to change states, what you have to do. We will, of course, help you get your certification when the time comes, but we are willing to take questions on a wide range of topics. I don't know, Dr. May, did you want to clarify anything from the questions that have been already asked? And hopefully students will put some more questions up for any of the panelists. And we also have Dr. McFadden, Dr. Zinicola here. So there's a lot of resources for you to get your questions answered.
Hey,
Dr.
Gillette,
if it's okay, I will jump in for a minute. And I just saw a couple of key questions that I thought it'd be helpful if we said them to everybody. And the first is, there's been a question about whether or not you will get specific advisement this afternoon, and you will. I just want to let you know that Freshman Studies works hand in hand with the faculty in the College of Ed and Human Services. So we've provided them both from elementary special ed and from secondary with a list of courses that we would expect that you would sign up for in your first semester as an education major. And so they have that list available, and they also know that if there's any question or something that they can't easily resolve, they know to reach out to us. So I want you to feel really comfortable and confident that today you're going to find out what you need to register for. I also saw that there were some questions about the core exam. And so this information is specifically for those who are tracking education. I just want to let you know that we've entered into the question and answer area information about the specific test numbers that you would take for that exam, as well as how you can register for it, and the fact that you would need to pass it no later than the end of freshman year. I think if you have really specific questions, it'd be best to reach out to me or to Dr. Ajapong, and we're happy to jump on a phone call or a Teams call with you and to talk you through any of that. So thank you.
Hey, panelists, I just received a couple questions on studying abroad.
and I was going to address it. We do offer opportunities to study abroad. Perhaps one of you could take it a little further, or maybe one of our faculty would like to talk about students who have studied abroad.
So this is Karen from the Office of Clinical Experience. What I will say is that this past year, so the College of Education, one of my goals has been to always offer some sort of a formal study abroad opportunity. I worked with some faculty this past fall to go down that path, and unfortunately we all know how sort of the spring semester played out and the opportunity to study abroad and all of those opportunities sort of getting canceled or postponed. But it is on a list of goals and objectives for my department to go back and relook at that with faculty. And we were looking specifically in England, which was a great opportunity, but we're going to explore other options. But in addition to our own cohort, or something that we try to do, we do have students specifically in secondary ed and foreign languages that have done either a semester or a summer abroad to kind of really embed themselves in that foreign language opportunity and really growing in their language, writing and speaking, oral skills, etc. And then I will let anybody else, either any of the faculty from any of the other programs with specific students. It is possible to certainly do that as part of your program. So I'll let someone else speak to it. Dean Gillette, it looks like you might be itching to say something.
Well, I just want to throw in before the faculty talk that your program is structured so you do have a semester in which you could go abroad, but that requires careful advisement. So as soon as you get in touch with your advisor here in the College of Education Human Services, you should tell them, I want to do a semester abroad, and they will work that out for you. Also, we have a faculty member, Dr. Brian Meadows, who, Claudia, did you go to Japan? Were you one of the people who went? I think she's, are you on mute, Claudia? I think you're on mute, Claudia. You're on mute.
Sorry, I double clicked it. My bad. I didn't personally go, but one of my friends in the secondary ed program, he went and he said it was an amazing experience. He learned a lot about how schools operate in Japan, looking at it from elementary, secondary, even at the college level. And I can, not that I went personally, so I can't personally recommend it, but it sounded like an amazing experience.
So it's tougher to fit in during the academic year, but you can do it. You just have to plan ahead. And then we have the summer experience in Japan and hopefully more to come with Ms. Grove's office. So I will let the faculty add on anything they would like to add.
I'd like to point out that there are some travel abroad courses that are offered, I know, out of the English department that tie in with your coursework and also with social studies. So yes, Seton Hall is very much gives you an opportunity to travel abroad, especially in the summer. We do have another question that came in here I want to share. I'm going to go to Dr. May. A student has asked if they take and pass the core academic skills exam this summer, will they be able to move directly into as an education major?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. If you take the test this summer and you pass, please email me and I'm happy to work with Dr. Martinelli to quickly convert you into a full education major. And just to let you know, a number of people have been doing that already. They've been sending me copies of their scores. People are writing to me this morning that they're signed up to take it in the next week or two. The thing I can tell you about this test from the many, many students who have taken it is that it's good to just get started on it. Sometimes when we wait too long, we kind of build up in our heads some feeling about it, and our students are passing it, but they're jumping on the chance to take it early and to get going with it.
Hey, Dr. May, we have another question, and maybe Dr. McFadden can jump in on this too. We have a student who is doing elementary ed and they want to do the ABA with special ed. Their question is, does this limit them to teaching only elementary? And also, how does it work for clinical placements?
I'm happy to answer some of that, but Dr. McFadden, do you want to jump in?
Sure, I would say that no, it does not limit you just to teaching elementary. It would depend upon what you choose as your second major. So we could sit down and we could talk about, you know, all of the options for second majors. if you're also interested in getting a middle school and high school certificate, you can absolutely do that as part of our elementary program, depending on if, which would be in English or history, a math, or a science. So we could definitely sit down and talk about that. I'll put my email in the chat. In terms of field placements, for your undergraduate field placements, typically in your junior year, those who are doing the ABA program will talk with Ms. Grove and let her know that they're interested in doing a highly specialized autism placement as part of their junior year special ed placement in the spring. And that's always been accommodated for those students. But for the earlier placements, you'll be in the lower grades K-2 in your fall of sophomore year, and then 3 to 5 in the spring of your sophomore year. So you do get the traditional placements as well as a more specialized placement in junior year. And then when you get into the graduate program, then you're going to get even more direct work with students with autism as part of the ABA program in that 5th year.
Thank you, Dr. McFadden.
You're welcome.
This is, oh, I see Dr. May answered the question. Sorry, this is Ms. Grove again. I see the question about can we take core multiple times? The answer is yes. And Dr. Martinelli, you're familiar with that as well, if you want to answer that, or if anyone else that has.
You can, thanks, Karen. Thanks, Karen. You can take the core as many times as needed. And just remember, some students actually take all of the exams over and over again. Once you pass a component of the core, you don't need to retake that part. So let's say you pass 2 out of the 3 components, you just need to take the part that you did not pass. So I want to clarify that. I have a question. I'm not quite sure where it goes. Is the test for all education majors or just secondary? So we have a question out there. If they can ask which test they're talking about, that would be great. We have a question that came up, and I want to throw this back to Dean Gillette. How has the pandemic affected the classes, and when can, I just lost it off my feet here, and what can we predict for the fall, if anything? So, Dean Gillette.
Sorry, I was muted to try to keep our bandwidth down. So the pandemic, you saw Claudia earlier teaching from remote student teaching. So we know that you will be able to handle, our students will be able to handle whatever the school districts decide. Right now, guidance has not come out from New Jersey Department of Ed about what schools will look like in the fall. So we're a little bit in a holding pattern about how our partnerships will play out in the schools. But on the campus, as you know, you got the communication from Dr. Nair, our president, that we will be using the high flex model, which means that in order to have social distancing, depending on the size of your course, and most of our courses are around 20 students, 22 students in a class. Some secondary ed are a bit smaller. So in order to maintain social distancing, we will be dividing the class where some people come in person on 1 day a week while the rest are remote, and then you switch. So you will always have some in-person time with your professor during the week. Most advising will be done remotely if we can't do it in person. So our faculty were just stellar. They really rose to the occasion to teach remotely, but everybody wants to be back in person in the fall. And so we're going to do as much in person as we are allowed. I wish I could be more forceful in saying this is how it's going to be, but right now we just, there's still some things up in the air, but we will have a safe campus. We will still have activities, and we will do as much as we can face-to-face, but we want you to stay safe and healthy. So within those boundaries, we'll make our adjustments.
Thank you. I'm going to throw this one out to Dr. McFadden. Can you explain when speech majors start working at the IHS campus?
So typically our speech majors are not going physically to the IHS campus until they start with their on-campus classes or their hybrid classes. Honestly, I'm not quite sure when that is, but they're full-time on the IHS campus when they go into their graduate program itself. They do make some trips to the IHS campus depending upon the class that they are in, but most of the time they're accommodated on campus and virtually.
Great. Do one of our students, Claudia, are you speech?
Shannon is, right?
Shannon, can you talk about speech?
Yeah, I could touch upon that. So we won't take in-person classes at the new medical campus until your 5th and 6th year for your master's. But for the prerequisites, the 18 credits needed for that master's level, those will be a hybrid format. So the professors from that medical campus will come to the main campus of South Orange every week or 2 weeks to teach class. And then it will also be virtual instruction. From my experience, since their offices aren't on the South Orange campus, they do a lot of Zoom meetings, or I was just on a call last week for my summer class. So I do feel very supported, even though they aren't right in Jubilee Hall. But they also will accommodate you if you want to go up to the medical campus to meet with them in person.
Fantastic. And I just want to ask Dr. May, just to clarify, we have a couple questions out here on core. Can you define the students who need to take the core, the difference between students who need to take the core and the students who don't? It's a little confusion on the back end here.
Absolutely, no problem with that. The only people who need to focus on the core academic skills exam are those who received a letter saying that they were welcomed into the College of Ed as tracking education majors. You might have received it's a code called EART, E-A-R-T. So anyone who is a tracking education major, meaning that you are not yet fully in the major, but you're taking our education introduction courses, you are the individual who would have to take that test. And I put my contact information in the question and answers. So if you're unsure, don't hesitate, just reach out. You can also ask your freshman mentor today to specifically clarify which track you're in education, and we can get this answered for you ASAP.
Thank you so much.
Can I provide some context of the core, Dr. Martinelli?
Pardon me?
Can I provide some context of the core, the Praxis Core exam, and then the necessity for it?
The necessity for it?
Yeah, like where it comes from. I mean, I think a lot of students are unaware that like all schools in the state of New Jersey, all students have to qualify and have those have SAT requirements in order to fully enroll in education programs across the state. So it's a state requirement and mandate for this Praxis Core requirement. So all students across the state in education programs are taking this course. If they have not met the requirements for the SAT, are taking the Praxis Core to fully enroll in the education major. Yeah, I mean, there's always some confusing in secondary around.
Yeah, that's a good point. What Dr. Ajapong makes a very, very good point. And all universities and higher ed in New Jersey that offer teaching, students must follow this policy of whether the SAT or ACT score, and if not, they have to take the core praxis. The other thing that I'd like to point out that's unique about Seton Hall, entering as a freshman, you have the opportunity to be an education major. So that's why we really are a stickler on this core exam. And I believe, Dr. May, they need to have the core exam completed by end of their freshman year, correct?
Correct.
So, and we have people that will help you. There's different resources that are available on campus. And actually, Dr. May is an awesome resource for the answer questions on the core. And but again, if you come in as an EART, you want to shoot to get that completed by the end of your freshman year. Oh, we have two new questions up here.
I think it might be time to wrap up.
Can I answer one question on teacher certificates? Are they transferable between states? Adam, that's a great question. Yes, there's reciprocity between states, and I can explain it to you when you get to that point when you start looking for your teacher certification and how it works. But if you are from out of state, or if you are from New Jersey, you must first get your certificate in New Jersey, and then we can go from there, and I can teach you how to get into other states.
Okay, it's 11:50 and we know you have other sessions this afternoon, but just two quick reminders. Everyone's email is on the screen. Please do not be shy about emailing questions, concerns, anything you want to know. We are here to help you. Especially after you go see your freshman advisor today, if you still are unsure, please ask. Secondly, send your t-shirt picture to educate@shu.edu. One of the funnest things is when you're a senior and getting ready to walk across the stage, we'll share with you what you look like when you were a first-year student. So we had those pictures up this year and it was fun. So thank you so much for coming. Again, please reach out. We will look forward to talking to you. We will be in touch over the summer for some just informal get-togethers. So welcome, Pirates. We're excited you're here. And Hazard Zet forward. Go Pirates.